Hello and welcome to In Their Own League. I am Joan Amen, editor-in-chief, and today we're going to be talking about Sundance Film Festival, virtually and in person, with my two very, very good friends, Morgan Roberts and Rosa Parra. Thank you both so very much for giving up time today to talk to me. And let's get into it. Like and subscribe because we're going to be discussing Sundance. So first of all, the in-person experience. Our dear friend Rosa Parra actually was there, boots on the ground, covering the festival. Okay, literally boots, Rosa. How cold was it?
Oh, it was very chilly. Very, very, very cold. No matter how, in my delusional mind, it was freezing here in LA when we were in our anything under 60s, we're freezing. And to go on over to Utah where their majority of the days is just single digit temperatures, it's quite a shock.
It was good to get into those screening rooms.
Yes, absolutely. But you know what? It's always an interesting experience to go to Sundance because there's always something different, whether it's the weather or the festival itself. But this year it was a little bit more chilly than usual. The last few years I'd gone, it's been a little more warmer, high 20s, low 30s kind of temperature. But this year, yeah, single digits. It was like, okay, this is back to the usual normal.
So how were the audiences? Was it as crowded as previous years?
Not really. The whole thing was I echo a lot of the very meh sentiment that's been circling. I believe that this year, I'm pretty sure there was a combination of outside things that were going on. I mean, LA fires, a lot of people couldn't go because they were directly affected by that. And then our social political thing isn't the best either. So I'm pretty sure that also had to do with it. And then the rumors and everything going on that the festival might be relocating. It felt very gloomy. It felt very like the atmosphere was not as exciting and as like hopeful as of previous years. So in that sense, it was pretty gloomy.
Was there any films that just really stood out to you that people were excited about seeing, that you were excited about seeing?
Yeah, well, my two most anticipated ones were obviously The Kiss of the Spider Woman, the remake of the 1985 film, starring Jennifer Lopez, Diego Luna, and Tonatiuh, and also the documentary of Selena y los Dinos. Because I mean, as a Latina, growing up with Selena was definitely she's been an instrumental part of my upbringing, pretty much. Her passing was one of the first passings that I directly experienced when it comes to celebrities. And it was, I've been a big fan ever since. I would think I was like 7 when she passed. So just to see that documentary in person was truly something special. So those were certainly movies that I was looking forward to, and obviously a lot of the movies that were under the premiere section were also movies that weren't going to be available virtually. So I was trying to get into as many of those as possible. So
So for the virtual Morgan, uh, convenience obviously of an online app, but how well does it work in your opinion? Is it well built? Some festivals are not as equal as others, and as far as accessibility. So what did you think?
Yeah, I think that Sundance has struggled in their IT department for sure. Unfortunately, I'm sure Rosa can at least attest to getting tickets can be a headache. And they know that there's going to be traffic increasing. So the fact that they're not having that capacity increase, knowing that this is going to be happening, is kind of a tale as old as time. I don't think I've ever experienced a ticket sales day go smoothly. That said, didn't have any issues with the app. I used the Roku app. It worked just fine, which has not always been the case either. So kudos to whomever was working on development for this year. But yeah, I think that there is a convenience and there's an accessibility that virtual online really provides. You think about the fact that, I live on the other side of the country. So being able to trek all the way to Utah is really expensive. Hotels and everything, extremely expensive. People actually have day jobs. It can sometimes be difficult to take that much time off of work. And so having the convenience of virtual accessible films is so huge. It is also expensive. They did raise the ticket prices this year, I think, because last year they realized that their pass of $350 was still more expensive if you just decided to buy 10 single individual tickets. You saved about $150. So instead of giving their pass something more interesting, they decided to just raise ticket prices, which is a little confounding to me when you're trying to have a platform that is accessible for people. $20 a ticket is expensive, but depending on the person and their financial situation, that might be a really great investment for them. And then raising the ticket prices by $15 per ticket is a little astonishing, especially in this economy. Like I understand that the arts are suffering and they always do. But being able to, I don't know, again, I think that accessibility is such a huge part and a huge struggle in film criticism in general. Like, I am very grateful that I don't have any physical disabilities that keep me from going to a movie theater or traveling or anything like that. And we know what COVID did to people who are immunocompromised, people who have various disabilities. And so to take their voices and their opinion out of film criticism, it is really detrimental. So yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling a bit about the whole virtual experience in general.
Well, with so many venues folding as well, as far as journalism or cutting back,
Yeah.
or it's getting harder and harder even for journalists to have paying employment these days, as we know, and to raise the prices. I mean, COVID, to me, the one very few upsides of COVID was that it made more accessible so many film festivals, and to scale that back at a time like this is, to me, is narrow-minded. But I do understand the flip side; they're trying to survive as well. So
Yeah.
trying to find a happy medium here, would be good for everybody. But did you feel that the choices for the bang for your buck, pretty much, the choices that you received were worth it for the money you paid?
I think what I really appreciated is, so many of the films that were available were in competition. And so I think that that's really a great way to spread, use word of mouth to people's advantage of having those films accessible. One of the films that I really loved, Sorry Baby, ended up being one of the few acquisitions. And I think having that online presence really elevated that, because then people were talking about it. And it's one of the few films that I saw completely sell out on the virtual platform. So I think that is really kind of the magic of being able to have those films specifically. Like, yes, I would love to have seen Together or Oh Hi. But I feel that those films had enough of a star power behind them. They had enough connections to be able to continue to play at festivals if needed. Again, I think Together was another film that was pretty early on acquired after, I think actually during the festival. So I think having the online platform for those films in competition is such a really smart way to drum up buzz for those types of films that, again, they might be from first-time filmmakers, they might be a little bit more experimental, they might not be, US films. There's a lot of world, both documentary and narrative films that end up on the online platform. So I think that that's really great. And I will say, I don't think I watched a dud, which is actually very rare in general. No, I think making a film is so hard. It's magic that it happens. There is always going to be one film that by the end I'm like, this was not for me. No, this is not a Morgan movie. Please never make me watch this again. But I didn't have that this time, which I think is a lovely gift.
So as far as the Sundance being unique, there you go, Morgan. That was your unique
Yeah,
aspect of Sundance 2025.
yeah,
Rosa,
for
what
me
did
for
you?
sure.
Yeah, Rosa, what did this? Was there anything unique about this festival besides the severe cold?
Yeah.
Was there anything unique about this festival that kind of stood out from previous attendances?
You know what? It felt some of the dreadiness and the loopiness of it all was also due to, so in previous years, you've had more venues where screenings would take place. This year,
Hmm.
at least 4 or 5 of them were no longer being used. And additionally, the screenings themselves. So normally, my pass normally covers um, screenings for P&I, which is press and industry. I don't get the all access pass where I can go to a premiere and then just get my just show my pass and then they'll just let me in. So it's mostly reserved for press and industry. And in previous years, I was able to probably sneak in 5 or 6 movies in one day if I had a good amount of coffee, by the way.
Yeah.
But the first screening being like 7:30 in the morning, and the last screening being like at 10 at night. This year, though, if I was able to get 4 of them in, it was a lot. The even the number of screenings per venue were very much limited compared to past years. So again, it felt very different, and I don't know. I feel that it has something to do with the fact that there is a very good possibility that the festival might relocate, and they're just trying to slowly but surely um, prepare for that. Additionally, though, I think that having the introduction of the virtual aspect of it may also have had some form of impact on the in-person screenings because probably not a lot of people are coming in as before because they rather watch it online, which is perfectly fine. I did half and half, to be honest. I did only 1 week here, and then the second week I was able to do virtual as well. As I was here at home. So I think that also may have impacted it. Although I'm very saddened that that virtual side of the festival might actually be ending after this year's. The things that happened online was pretty unfortunate. Having the copyrights and having actually films being pulled from the virtual was pretty unfortunate to see it happen because it was, well, the movies, if I'm not mistaken, was Twinless, which I had the pleasure of watching in person, and it was incredible. Actually, it was my favorite movie of the festival. And yeah, Selena y los Dinos, the documentary, also got pulled out from the virtual because of copyrights. And I think that as that continues to happen, we have to, in a way, understand that this is people's hard work. People have been working on these projects for years, and for them to just be leaked online the way that they were, it's pretty upsetting. And it's gonna unfortunately have the domino effect, and it's gonna impact those who were able to access the festival online because it it's so upsetting. If I continue going on with this, I'm just gonna burst because it's really it's infuriating to see this happen and how it's gonna impact other people who depend on the and have accessibility to the festival due to its virtual thing. So um yeah.
Well, it's not just this festival either. It's any festival. I mean, this
Yeah.
is like you said, the domino effect, not just for Sundance, but for festivals going forward as well. It's just something that really people need to be aware of. This is, like you say, people's lives they've devoted to these projects and their livelihoods, and that it's everyone loses basically. There's nothing to be gained by what was done. Seriously, there's no real reason why that had to be that way. Certainly not, it's not certainly not when you realize that this is all about. Why even, go to a festival? Why even enter it? So this is what the festival is all about, to be seen, to be appreciated, and that's part of the process. And to undermine that, yeah, gains nothing. It really doesn't. It's just kind of destructive. So you mentioned your favorite film, Rosa. I'll show you two that were your favorite. You had Celine, obviously. And what was the other one that you mentioned that you really loved?
Me, I was twinless.
Okay. Okay, so
Yeah,
we'll look out for that one. Twinless, Celine, obviously. And
yeah.
Morgan, what was you probably had a couple of favorites too.
Yeah, I had Sorry Baby was definitely my number one. And then I think Brittany Shine's Seeds, which is a documentary, was my second favorite, really profound film.
Would you say that the documentaries were really strong this year, maybe stronger than the other genres of film?
I think documentaries at Sundance, and Rosa, let me know your thoughts on it. I feel like the documentaries always tend to be a little bit stronger. I just think documentaries in general really have a uniqueness to them that make the stories that they're telling really exciting, really engaging. And I think that narrative films, while magical in so many different ways, are can be very singular in their voice. And so sometimes you're just not the right audience for that type of film.
Oh, I agree. This year definitely the documentaries were the strongest. I believe from my top 10 that I have here, I think like seven of them are documentaries.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was a really strong year for documentaries. Let me see, yeah, Twinless. Then my number two was Selena y los Dinos. I had Sorry Baby at three. It's a really really great film, and I'm so glad that they did what acquired. And yeah, The Perfect Neighbor. It was a documentary that, oh man, it was heart wrenching to watch, particularly done just through police camera footage, and
Mm.
it just chronicles a woman who is just constantly calling the cops, reporting that the kids, their neighbors, are just playing near her house and they're making a mess or being disruptive, and so on and so forth. So I had never been so tense and so at the edge of my seat with the
Oh,
documentary as I had been with this movie. And it was an unfortunate thing that's sadly happening more frequently. And it's a movie that definitely stayed with me. It's just wow. It's definitely one of those films that, yeah, I haven't stopped thinking about since I watched it. Did you get a chance to see it, Morgan? I don't know if it was available
I was going to
online.
say, I don't think that one was available
Oh,
on
I
the virtual
wasn't.
platform, but
Oh,
I love to curate a watch list
yeah.
after any film festival, because even if you do have a little extra access, as you mentioned, there's only so many hours in the day to be able to see all of the films that you want to see. So there's always going to be something. Um, yeah, I did also, I don't know if you saw the documentary Mr. Nobody Against Putin, which was
No.
that was a documentary that I really, it was how I started the festival. So I think really hit a high note starting there and ended with Seeds. So it really was kind of like these two great documentary bookends for Sundance.
you two are old hands now at attending festivals. So this is a fun question. How do you keep yourselves going? Like you said, it's hours and there's hours and there's hours. How do you keep yourselves going to endure this assault on your eyeballs?
You know what? This year, actually, I started doing this last year because at one point in my attending film festivals, particularly Sundance, I was under this mindset that I have to watch as much as possible, and it was more of a competitive and comparing myself to others. And oh my God, how does this person watch 65 movies in one festival? However, like you said, the eyeballs don't necessarily appreciate it. The head, it comes to a point I know I needed help when I was beginning to mix in the narratives between different movies. And the characters were becoming, where everything was just blending in. And that's when I understood that, hey, you got to slow it down. And this year, I will be honest, I only watched 35 movies. And it was through the 2 week period. And it was like, all right, I'm good with this. In the past, I would have been very disappointed and upset that I could have watched more, but taking a little more care of my brain and and the eyes. So I think it's being able to find that balance and find being able to walk that tightrope where, okay, I can watch 4 or 5 movies in one day, not consecutively. Next day, watch maybe one, two, and then maybe again three, four, but have um I get, at least in my case, have a little more control and just more breaks in between. It helps a lot. Coffee also does its work as well.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Coffee's magic.
yeah, seriously. Well, with screeners, I mean, after a while, they all kind of, to me anyway, if I watch too many, they kind of tend to blend together as well. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, yeah. I think it depends on like what you're watching. I also like to try to make sure that I'm like breaking up the type of film that I'm watching. So I'm going from documentary to narrative to documentary to narrative. Um, I will also say, just in general, I tend to gravitate towards films that are under 2 hours. I'm sorry if you love a nice epic, but I can't do that quite often. I will say I did watch Hal and Harper. The entire series was online, which was uh great to be able to now see two of Cooper Raif's I guess projects at Sundance, which was fun. So that was kind of like my biggest chunk of time where I really had to pay attention because it was like 4.5 hours of a TV show. But I have also watched an entire season of Glow in a day, so it's not it's usual for me. And yeah, kind of as Rosa said, like pace yourself. I took time off of work because it was just a couple of days. They on the virtual platform was available for 4 days. And so I just kind of broke things up that way. I even added a random couple of movies from just my own regular watch list. So then that way I'm like, this is just mindless. I don't have to potentially pay extra close attention to what I'm watching. I can just sit there and veg out a little bit as, watching Mandy Moore in Saved for the umpteenth time kind of thing. So, it's a little bit of trying to balance what you're doing and then also giving yourself just time to turn off your brain a little bit so that what you watched can be absorbed.
That's an important point. As critics, we have to have a certain kind of focus, and it's not the same as binging, SpongeBob for the 50th time. You have to be there and present and alert and it's not like okay, I'm going to watch the I don't know the fourth season of Iron Chef for the like the 20th time. Yeah, you
Yeah,
have to actually be
exactly.
engaged, and I think. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Rosie. What do you think? I think being present, it might be easier, harder on your brain, but easier to be present than virtually. Oh, there's snacks, there's your home, there's your pet. You can lose the narrative somewhat. At least I find there's so many distractions, and maybe it's just my ADHD that I find that being virtual, I sometimes have a struggle paying attention to the screenings. And at that point, like you mentioned, Morgan, it helps when you're seeing films that are under 2 hours because after a while the brain just can't process anymore, and you really need to take a break. So yeah, I think that's true. I think that's very important that people may not realize when you're reviewing a film and you want to write about it in a critical way. It's different. It's a different process than just sitting in your movie theater with a bag of popcorn and your friends and family around you, and it's pure entertainment. There's a way different process that goes on that I'm not sure people really understand. We're trying to uh, extract meaning. We're trying to extract themes, evaluate, and it's way different than, hey, I'm going to go see Wicked for the fifth time with my friends. You want to come? And sing along. So yeah, see, or not. So yeah, so it's a totally different thing. And then to have to do that for days, or as you say, weeks, geez, it can be very stressful. It can really be very demanding and very stressful, which I really think is an important thing to keep in mind when you say, if they cut off virtual, so what? Or if they cut back the festival, so what? No, this actually is really, this is serious work. This is serious work. People who create these films go in with the deadly seriously. They're devoted to their work, their project. And some of us take our work very seriously, whether we're getting paid for it or not, and that we value what they create. We value the creators. And we want to hear from them, and we want to hear their voices, and we want to hear what they have to say. And this is something that we are passionate about just as much as being an audience, just as much as they are in their communication in whatever form that takes. And I think that's very important to keep in mind. Let's discuss the relocation rumors now. What looking at? What are the rumors flying? I hear Colorado, I hear Ohio. I don't know if they're really going to stay in Utah. It doesn't seem likely. What do we think? Where do we think they're going to wind up? And what do you think that's going to do for virtual, like you say? Are they going to use that possibly to shut that down even temporarily until the transition takes place? Some questions this year that are floating around. But let's do a location. What do you think? Where do you think where they're gonna land? Do we have any ideas,
I mean,
preferences even?
I hope that they land in Colorado. I think it's a hub. It is a little bit more accessible to a lot of places because they have a major airport just in Denver, which is about 45 minutes to an hour away from Boulder. Boulder can be a little bit more expensive, but there is enough in that metropolitan area so that it doesn't feel like you're spending an arm and a leg trying to spend your time there. Cincinnati, Ohio is kind of a random one personally for me. I don't know if I've ever thought of Cincinnati as a particular film hub, but I think that could also be a venue that's a little bit lower cost just because it is the Midwest. That kind of changes some of the cost there. But yeah, my personal preference is Colorado for sure.
What do you think, Rosa?
Yeah, I'm hearing that Colorado is a pretty good possibility.
Oh,
And
yeah, okay.
so it's, I mean, I personally would not mind where it goes. I'm still gonna try and do my best to go and watch movies and so on. But I think like inside my soul, my heart wants it to stay in Park City in Utah because perhaps yes, I'm being a little more selfish. It's closer to where I live, but I think that it's where it's always taking place. It's like TIFF moving away from Toronto, or it's just synonymous with the Sundance Film Festival, and for it to even the fact that we're even having this conversation seems, in my humble opinion, slightly surreal that this is even a possibility. So, I mean, I personally been hearing rumors that it might go to Colorado, and that may be one of the reasons why the atmosphere and everything was feeling the way it was. I think next year would be the last festival if it does happen. That takes place in Utah, and but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, things are in flux everywhere. We're just looking at a lot of transitions and a lot of turmoil and churn in the industry right now, and it's just everything's up in the air. But yeah, I hear your point, though. Yeah, it's always been there. It was founded there. This was the start of the independent film movement. Let's remember, this is historical. It has historical significance that it's there, and that is true, and that will always remain in the history of film. Sundance is on the map and will remain that it started there. And that has weight, that it really does. It's a part of our cultural history, seriously. As much as any other, as much as Hollywood, as much as now Atlanta has become part of the story of the film industry. This is just a growing transition of film, that we're seeing. So anyway, thank you so much, both of you, for talking to me. Morgan, where can we find you when we're not chatting at the league?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky for my podcast, Female Gaze the Film Club. That is the handle for both. It's very long, and I'm sorry, but that's where you can find me. We're wrapping up our latest season, just did our 50th episode, and then we're getting ready for Women's History Month. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Give them a like and follow. Rosa, you very busy person, you. Where can we find you when we're not chatting at the league?
Yeah, you can find me obviously on, I still call it Twitter, Instagram, Letterbox, at Rosa's Reviews. And yeah, for the most part, I write for Cherry Picks. I just posted some of the films of female directed, female stories up there, and also mostly at the Latino slant. That's where I tend to write
There you go.
all year round, all the movies, newly released movies, and then here and there. So yeah.
And give them a like and follow too. Absolutely. Thank you both so much for talking with me today. It's been a pleasure. And we'll just see what happens next year at Sundance. Tune in. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good one.